David, that was your intro. It's my honor to bring on David Berry, Executive Director of Business Banking Area at JPMorgan Chase. Welcome to Let's Talk.
Thanks, Denise. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, this is, I need to get on your couch. A lot of business owners need to be on your couch right now and spilling their hearts out to say, give us some answers. This is some tough times, David, for businesses. Tell us about your journey with JP Morgan Chase and how you ended up in this area.
Absolutely, Denise. I always say, I am who I'm from, and I know that's a bit funny, but I come from a family of dynamic entrepreneurs. My parents are 35-year business partners, and just seeing them navigate a lot of uncertainties and also challenges with banking. I joined JP Morgan Chase 12 years ago with one goal, and that goal being able to positively impact the communities that we serve. I started off as an intern. I was at Morehouse College at the time, and I stayed here in this firm and grew. I'm now responsible for half the state of Maryland for our small business banking team, and we work with companies up to about 20 million in annual revenue. And last year, I was responsible for doubling our presence in the communities that we support across Greater Maryland. So it's a unique honor. It's a privilege to do what I get to do every day, but we get to sit side by side with business owners and help them navigate whatever today brings our way, right? And we're super excited for the opportunity to discuss more.
Yeah, whatever brings our way is coming so fast. I think businesses that were sitting pretty well 6 months, a year ago are now trying to figure out, where did this train come from that just hit them? But, what are you hearing from small business owners that you work with?
Denise, we're hearing a lot. And I think, to preface that, I think the focus on just uncertainty, we know is not good, right? We all hope to be in a space of stability and always to have clarity, but we know that that's not always the reality that we're in with whether it's the economy, the industry, the competitive landscapes that we support. But what we are seeing is that a lot of our business clients are looking to use this opportunity as ways to focus on innovation rather than to retreat. And, some of the conversations, which I think is parallel, is, just thinking about where we were 3-4 years ago coming off of the pandemic, right? It seemed like it was so far away. But in that moment, a lot of our business owners experienced change, and they found more innovative ways to shift, and it changed their operations. And it took a moment, but we were able to kind of come out of it, right? And so we're seeing, that this moment is a moment of uncertainty, and it is self-inflicted, whether you're for it or you're against it. But I'm an optimist. And the way that I look at it is that we're using this opportunity as a moment to pivot, right? And we're seeing that business owners are using the same strategies that they use, a lot of them coming out of the pandemic, which is, how do I be adaptive to change, right? How do I stay nimble? How do I take what's thrown my way and shift it back to make sure that my company, my employees, and my generational legacy is able to navigate this appropriately.
And so how does that happen? I know you're saying to innovation, but innovation a lot of times takes money. It takes revenue. And so how does that happen with small businesses and large businesses now who are sort of retreating, they're having layoffs, a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. So how do you advise people to innovate?
So I would take it from a few directions, Denise. I would always say, one, the advisors and the people around you are most important, right? And being able to have those around you that you can talk to, whether it's your bank partners, whether it's your attorneys, your CPA, et cetera. But also thinking about the long-term goal and strategies around the company. Being able to navigate today's landscape, but what does 2026, 2027, 2028 look like? And don't forget about that, right? As you continue to look at the plan of how you navigate today. There's a lot of capital resources that exist across the ecosystem. There's 5,000 banks that are in our economy, and there are a lot of programs that also exist. And I would love to talk through a few through our discussion today, but there are program and resources that are out there to exist to help business owners as they're trying to navigate the uncertainty that are specifically impactful to them and their company.
So let's talk about them. Since you want to, I certainly do want to hear them. I'm sure our listeners do too. What are some of those opportunities that businesses can take advantage of?
Yeah, so what I always think about, Denise, is just the value of one, coaching, whether that's executive coaching, whether that's more consultative support. There are a lot of programs that exist in our society today that are, whether they're cohort based or individualized, focused for coaching and helping entrepreneurs just navigate changes. I know we focused on that as a firm. In 2020, we launched our Coaching for Impact team, which is an amazing platform and program for entrepreneurs to leverage our what we call small business consultants. These are very senior folks in the banking industry that are, they help companies navigate recession in 2008, some of them the pandemics, right? And so being able to leverage that one-on-one coaching to really pull back the layers on the business and use that as opportunity to figure out, where do I go and how do I get there? We're seeing a lot of businesses value that. And the program is not for Chase customers. It's, we've opened it up completely to Chase and non-Chase customers. It is completely complementary. And so we're seeing a lot of business owners leverage that. And also, if you think about it, with the recent uncertainties, a lot of companies right now are being very cautious, as you mentioned, Denise, and reevaluating strategies and plans. And so it is a great time to leverage, those that are seeing it from other companies, those are having direct experience, to leverage those advisors as you're pivoting and trying to figure out how to become more nimble in this environment.
Well, when we talk about pivoting, though, they were one of the, and I don't know if you're equipped to answer this, and I don't think Chase was one of those companies, but and I say this because we're coming up on the 5th anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And as a result of that, a lot of major companies opened the doors of opportunity that were not open before because they were interested in equity. I don't do the other letters, but they were interested in equity. How do we even the playing field, particularly for small minority, I hate that word, but minority-owned businesses? And there were much greater opportunities. Recently, because of this those other letters, a lot of businesses, a lot of corporations have closed doors, which means that their government contractors or private contractors, small businesses that were benefited, who are no longer benefiting. It's not that they're doing anything differently, it's just who they are and not what they do. So how do you address that?
Yeah, I completely understand, Denise. These are very, very real conversations we're having day in, day out with our clients, and how to pivot in those moments. For clients that were in the government contracting space, we're seeing a lot of them pivot more into state and local. We're seeing a lot of them become a little bit more diverse in having commercial contracts versus just being 100% concentrated within the agency. But again, that really pulls back to the layer of that strategic planning and being able to really identify, how do I take my value as an organization? How do I take my service or my product and make sure that my customer base, if it's not going to be this one, it's going to be another one, to make sure that I continue to grow my business. And then secondly, when you think about, where we were then and where we were now, we actually launched our program, our Coaching for Impact program, in 2020 on the hems of that challenge. And it still exists to this day, right? So we've not shifted our focus around helping entrepreneurs make smarter financial decisions, right? Being able to leverage the resources, the tools that we have. And a lot of what we do as well is we're connected with our partners. We're working with local small business development centers. We're working with mayor's offices and local and state organizations to identify, whether we can support a client directly or not, that there are resources that are out there that they can leverage to continue to grow. So I always tell our clients at this point in time, it is an opportunity to just revisit, those resources, reconnect with, those local development centers, reconnect with your mayor's offices for small business, or pull back a little bit more on those resources because they're there. Think about it. I have a nephew going off to college, and we were talking about just the scholarships, right? I think at one point scholarships was just everywhere. Now he's doing a little bit more work to identify what's the right scholarship for me. And so I think a lot of those resources are still there, Denise. I just think it requires a little bit more work to identify who's there, where can I go, how can I be valuable to take advantage of it.
Well, you said it quickly, but you dropped a lot of gems just in that brief conversation about where business owners can go to learn more about resources and what's available. Do you have any specific, you just sort of talked in general in general speak about places to go, which I hope people caught. But can you be more specific?
Absolutely, and I do talk fast, so I completely understand. There, chase.com/business is a really great incubator for a lot of resources, a lot of tools. We've also built out our knowledge center on chase.com, which provides support around navigating cash flow, supporting clients with cybersecurity and being more supportive to their employee staff around being able to identify threats. So there's many resources and articles and interviews that our clients can leverage, and non-clients, right? Just business owners as they're trying to figure out, where do I go? How do I change? How do I navigate this moment? Hopefully that's a great resource for them to start.
And some folks, just really, I don't know if Chase would offer that, but whether you're, a Chase customer or not, but I mean, you've shown us the website and places where people can go, but is there like a number where somebody says, look, I'm trying to figure out, do I qualify for a loan? Some of the other things that you just mentioned, is there a phone number that's available to people?
There is a phone number. It's multiple. And what I will say about that is it starts with our branches, right?
Okay. All right.
We when I came to this market in 2019, we had about 7 or 8 branches. We're at over 130 branches that are local to DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and we're now in 48 states, right? So it starts with really building that one-on-one relationship with your local branch partners. They're going to be the ones to help you bring in the right people, being able to help you leverage all the tools and resources. So that's where it starts, and it builds that connectivity. I'll always talk about the value of the relationship with your banker, whether it's our bank or any other bank. But you don't want to have it just when you need it, right? When you need something from the bank, you want to have it when things are well. You want to have it when things are, when you're trying to figure out what to do next. So that's a great place to start, Denise, is the local branch. And they'll be able to plug in all the resources to help any entrepreneur be able to leverage what we're doing at Chase.
Well, that's that little bit of advice that never goes away. Have a relationship with your banker. And a lot of times you're right. People just don't take the time to do that. They go in, they don't even go into banks much anymore, David. So is that what you would also prescribe, to just go in and sit down and talk with a bank manager or a bank staff person? And, how do they initiate that relationship?
Absolutely. So what I would say, step one, Denise, is go to chase.com and locate the closest branch to you, right? You want to identify that branch that you're going to be able to go into more regularly and know the folks there. 2, schedule an appointment online just to make sure your time is of value. So we want to make sure we have somebody there to take good care of you. And then go in, have that open discussion, talk about your growth plans, talk about where you are today, talk about your challenges, and allow that small business specialist to really be able to navigate and create that team of advisors that you're going to need to be able to continue to grow. You can also go to chase.com with our /business for our coaching for impact team. That is a direct link to be able to go there and to sign up for coaching within our organization, again, for Chase customers and non-Chase customers. But the value of that relationship, we are still in a relationship business, right? I know we have a lot of technology, but we are all still in a relationship business. And so that relationship is really important. Your banker should be advocating for you. Your banker should be looking around the corner for your business. And sometimes if you're not seeing that, maybe you identify a new banker, and that's okay, right? But being able to have that relationship is very important, not only today, but as any entrepreneur continues to grow.
Well, I could go on and on, because I'm a business owner, small business owner, and have a lot of questions. And you all are no stranger to Let's Talk. You've been available to answer questions that people have. And I'm just going to tell folks on the listening audience, David Berry is with us today. He's the Executive Director of Business Banking for JPMorgan Chase. And we've had other representatives from JPMorgan Chase to come and share great information. And so, I'm going to solicit questions from folks out there in the audience. We can't answer them now, but I'm going to hold on to them, or I'll send them to you, David. Maybe you can communicate with them, one-on-one. But for our next episode with Chase, we certainly would love to be able to address some of our community's questions. But I want to thank you so very much for being with us today. Anything I didn't ask that you want to add before you go?
I think you've asked amazing questions, Denise. So thank you absolutely for having me. As I close, I'll just say, continuing to focus on that resiliency plan, that adaptive plan for the business that should always exist, whether things are going great or not. Right. Control the controllables, but also, as we look around the corner, I'm always going to put a plug around fraud preventative, because we are seeing fraud continue to grow, and it's most impactful to small business. So continue to make sure that there's plans in place to address fraud preventativeness, and also internally with your team to be able to make sure that phishing and cyber threats are not impacting the small business. And then the last thing I'll add is, I know a lot of our clients talking about talent, right? Hiring, keeping people is not easy. So having a strategic plan in place in efforts to address the shortages and all the challenges of hiring. And there's a lot of resources that we provide to help entrepreneurs leverage that to be successful. So I'll close with that, Denise, but it has been a complete honor. Thank you so much for having me.
No, my pleasure. And thanks for hitting on some touch points that we didn't talk about, but, definitely need further exploration. So have a good one, David. Enjoy the weekend, and maybe we'll see you back here soon. And thank you, JPMorgan Chase, for sponsoring this segment.
Perfect.
Where did you come to get all you